Okay, this is 1.3, part 3, a word or a story problem. When you're writing your word or a story problem, think about exactly what section we're on. We're on equations with the variable on each side. So when I write my equation, in all likelihood, I'm going to have the variable on each side. That should help you out a bit. Okay, but here's the information that's given. 3 consecutive integers are n plus 1, and n plus 2. So for example, if n is 3, then 3 consecutive integers would be 3, that's n, 4, that's n plus 1, and then 5, that's n plus 2. And you could really substitute in any number to figure out the 3 consecutive integers. But here's the information that's given as well. 4 times the sum of the least and greatest integers is 12 less than 3 times the sum of the least integer. Okay, what's the least integer? So that's quite a mouthful there. But if you just take it one part at a time, 4 times, so you're going to be multiplying by 4. I'm just following along here. The sum, so the sum is addition. You always want to look for keywords. But here's what we're adding. The least and the greatest integers. So the least, that's the smallest integer. That would be n. And then the greatest integer would be n plus 2. So 4 times the sum of the least and the greatest integers. So I'm multiplying 4, I'm going to use parentheses, by the sum, so we're adding here, of the least, which is n, and the greatest, n plus 2 integers. So again, just to double check, 4 times, this is the sum of the least n and the greatest, n plus 2. Is, so is equals, that starts forming my equation, 12 less than, I'm not going to read any more yet, 12 less than would be, you're subtracting 12. So all I'm doing is using the information to build my equation. So 12 less than 3 times the least integer. Okay, some of you might try to do 3 times and then multiply the minus 12 by 3, but what you want to multiply 3 by, it's 3 times the least integer, and then the least integer is n. So 3 times the least integer n. This is 12 less than 3 times the least integer. And what we're actually trying to find is the least integer, n. Technically, we would find the middle integer, n plus 1, and then the greatest integer as well. But all the question asks us is to find the least integer. So like I was saying earlier, we have the variable n on each side of the equation. Okay, but in order to solve for n, I'm going to simplify the left side of the equation. I'm actually going to simplify what's inside the parentheses first. 4 times the quantity, that's parentheses, n plus n. This is 1n, this is 1n. 1n plus 1n is 2n. So I have the plus 2 there. Equals, on the right side, 3n minus 12. Can't simplify that. And then on the left side, I want to distribute the 4 to each term inside the parentheses. Technically, we could have distributed first and then combined like terms. You'd get the same thing. So 4 times 2n is 8n. 4 times positive 2, 8. And then on the right side, 3n minus 12. So in my opinion, we did all the hard parts here. Okay, we wrote the equation, given all the information. Like I said, it was quite a mouthful and a lot of information to take in. But now we could solve the equation by getting the variable to one side of the equation. This 3n is positive, or it's being added. So the inverse operation is to subtract 3n from each side. 8n minus 3n is 5n. And then plus 8. That's equal to, on the right side, negative 12. Don't forget about the negative with the 12 there. Okay. It's important that you keep the sign with the number or the constant here. Now using inverse operations on the variable, okay, we want to subtract 8 from each side of the equation. So 5n is equal to negative 12 minus 8 is negative 20. And then we could divide each side by 5. N is equal to negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4. Just recall that an integer could be both positive or negative. So in this case, don't think because it's negative that you have an incorrect solution. So the least integer, n, is negative 4. And that's the solution. I'm going to write out my solution, the least integer. And that's the solution to the word problem or the story problem.